Blog Talk Radio.
10 years ago, a crack commando unit was sent to prison by a military court for a crime they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped from maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles underground. Today, still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire
LCS Hockey.
What we want, we do anything that we wish. We got no respect for animal burning or fish. The grass does not grow on the places where we stop and stand.
River Bottom Nightmare Band.
And we're off. You are missing American Idol for this. It's the LCS Hockey Radio Show. Brought to you as always by Honest John Churchfield and by the #1 hockey site in all the land, LCSHockey.com. LCS. It's not just for breakfast anymore. Tonight, no monologue tonight. I was asked not to do one. Specifically requested do not do the monologue tonight, so therefore I didn't. We got a jam-packed show as, Cousin Brandon's here tonight. In the first hour, we're going to do his, crappy music review like we do every year. And then, second hour, Jim Fetzer will be here. Right, Mike Dell? Jim Fetzer.
That's right, Larry.
And
Conspiracy expert, James Fetzer.
There you go.
Yeah.
Can I call him Jay?
Probably not. I don't think.
All right. What about Timmy?
No.
All right. So anyways, since we got all that, I was asked not to do the monologue, so let's just get it over with. Joining me as always is the editor-in-chief at LCS Hockey, and a man that says he's toe full at the end of every meal. It's the very busy Mike Dell.
I don't know what that means. But, Larry, it's not that I specifically asked you not to do a monologue. It was more like you called me up and said, hey, do I have to do a monologue? I was like, no, don't worry about it. I think that's pretty much
No. That's not how it happened at all. I'll pull back the curtain real quick, Mike Dell. What happened was I got a call from you when I got home from work today saying, if you do a monologue tonight, there will be hell to pay. That's all I'm going to tell you.
All right. Fair enough. I don't recall that at all. I mean,
that's exactly how it happened. You can check my caller ID.
Now, is Cousin Brandon here yet?
Hopefully, yeah, there he is.
Oh,
so
play his little music and bring him on. Let's get cracking.
All right, hold on. He threw me off being here already. All right, here we go. Brandon.
Hello? I wondered where Jerry bought his pantyhose.
What is wrong with you? That's horrible.
How do you call yourself a man? Holy hell, I need to have these women.
Brandon.
Hello.
There he is, Cousin Brandon Damashek. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Brandon, because, as always, this is the big music review show. Once a year, you tell the kids what they should have been listening to the year before. We're a little late this time. We're about, 3-4 weeks into the new year already?
Yeah, something like that. Hey, wait. Well, go. Look, I want to let you do your intro, but I have 3 points right off the bat.
Ooh, I like when people come and talk.
Just remind you, I need... Well, all right, look. Number one, I can give a rat's ass about hockey. You know this, but some dude from the Rangers has 4 goals tonight.
Yeah, Marion Gaborik. Yeah, I'm watching it right now. 4 goals.
Pretty impressive.
Just saw he can score in bunches.
He get hurt.
Yeah, he gets hurt a lot, but...
I don't care about hockey. I just thought that was pretty
4 goals and a pulled groin, I guarantee it.
So what is that in bowling terms? So the turkey is, what, three straight strikes. What do they call it? Is it an albatross? Is that right?
I have no idea.
I
still don't put things in terms of bowling. So I don't know.
You're no good. Okay, so that's one thing. secondly, no monologue.
Yeah.
I
I love the
was
monologue.
threatened.
You know I love the monologue.
I thought my life was in danger.
Larry,
So I
you
opted
cannot let Mike Dell bully you. Have you met Mike Dell? And let's even further pull back the curtain. I think listeners know I've not met either of you in person, neither one. But you know what? I have seen pictures. Larry, you do as you please. I've seen this man. He's a tiny little tofu man. You do what you like.
I'm very thin.
That's exactly
Why,
right.
you know-
From what I understand, Larry's like 7'3", and like Mike Dell weighs 76 pounds. This is what
But-
I've been led to believe.
But I
Larry,
know
you
how
do
to
as you
focus
like.
my chi. So I can yeah.
But just don't focus on
Well,
Larry.
I only see Mike Dell like once every 3-4 years, so it's a lot of effort to fight and whatever.
You got to
Oh,
make the effort, man. Make
What's
the
your
effort.
what's your third
My third point is this. I'm listening, and obviously, you know how much I've said this many times. You know how much I love the River Bottom Nightmare Band.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you
but-
about. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm about to poke a hole in their lyrics. I'm just now realizing this. They don't respect animals, vermin, or fish. Hello? You are animals, vermin, and fish.
Animal, birdie, or fish? Animal,
Oh,
birdie.
still, either way.
Well, they still got a
Please,
fish.
There's a fish in a tank spitting
I
water
know.
during the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are all
please.
animals. Yeah, but
They're fucking hypocrites is what they are.
now, how do you feel about
River
that as the
Bottom
opening
Hypocrite
theme
Band,
song?
thank you.
Do you like the River Bottom Nightmare Band as the opening theme song for the show?
It's great. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Because I changed it for Christmas, but now I'm just leaving it up there because I enjoy it.
I love it. I think you should go. Absolutely. I love it.
I think
Now,
I'm going to get sick of it.
Nah, yeah, we'll see. But I love it.
Here's my suggestion at least. Make it your 2011 theme song.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
Because,
and when the New Year steps upon you, you go ahead and change it.
Because I think I want everyone to know right off the top that the grass doesn't grow wherever we stomp and stand.
River Bottom Nightmare Band.
Yeah. It just sets the tone for the rest of the show. Now, would the River Bottom Nightmare Band be on your 2010 Best Music Collections?
Album of the year.
Nice. What would their
I guess
album
we're done
be
here,
called? If they had an album, what would it be called?
I'm thinking that, the first record would be self-titled. There's no doubt
well,
about
that's true, yeah.
it. It would be self-titled. No. I'm having to think that would be the case. I'm thinking number 2 might just be called Vermin, something along those lines, like something snarky and inside, not very clever.
How about
Bottom dweller, bottom feeders. Yes.
Yeah,
Peters?
there you go.
How about Look at the Birds in the Trees?
That's a little. Oh, you know
worried?
what? It might just be grazing.
All right.
How about
Great.
How about fuck stick?
No.
Probably not, because it was a Muppet Disney or Muppet oriented. Maybe Foxton.
You never know. Well, Brandon, before we get into the big music countdown, I noticed that today your Twitter name has changed, and I don't like it.
Well, listen, I thought this might come up. Let's just say the man is on to me, and I don't care for it one bit. So don't be surprised if in the upcoming days that account is deleted altogether, but don't worry.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Does this mean that, what do you mean the man? You mean your students?
Not all this shit. No. I'm talking about the man with the real job place. So yeah. So
Yoko?
one of two things is going to happen in the next couple of days. Either I'm going to have an all-new account with the same hilarity, or I'll have an all-new account with the same hilarity, and I'll be Sam's job. So we'll see. We'll see.
Nice. Yeah, because you used to be able to follow your cousin Brandon. Yeah.
Are you telling us that
I don't know what happened, but I don't know. I don't want. Let's not get into it. Bottom line is this: someone somehow found my shit, and I don't like that. And and let's just say, the powers that be at the job apparently weren't too happy that I was talking shit about the executives. And I can only imagine if they went back too far, they're reading shit about me, talking about like taking a shit in my boss's office, talking about like jerking off on my coworker's desk. I mean, I can only imagine this sort of shit.
I
that they're reading.
know.
I'm like, oh no, I have been waking up nights. Ugh.
Can you delete that?
Well, I can delete the whole account. That's what I'm saying. But at this point, I can they have read it. I mean, well, at this point, I can't be like, oh, let me get rid of that one tweet where I talk about my dick. I mean, what am I going to do? There goes my whole. That's my bit. I'm done.
Yeah, that's your whole shtick.
You know. Otherwise, then it's just like tweet. If it's not that, then it's just tweets being like, oh, I'm drunk, or it's tweets that say like, hey, go read my blog. I fucked myself a good.
Don't forget about diabetes.
Yeah, you
what?
Your diabetes. You tweet a lot about your diabetes. How much you hate your employer and your fellow employees. Yeah, that's great. And your students when you teach the classes. So
and it doesn't help right too that like there's tweets about like my he/she coworker that sits next to me. I mean, really. But like I said, look, the upside is this. I don't mention, I never mention my company by name. I don't mention people by name. There's no policy, at least when I started there, about social media, so they can't really say anything. But
just say it's a bit. You're a writer. You're making characters.
I'm not very funny.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's not like it's not like hey, my boss in his blue tie and so today driving this model car, he's a dick.
Well, I think
that dick is modeled after my cock. Yeah, so what?
I think you did tweet that actually a couple weeks back.
I think I did. I think you're right. God damn it.
But at this, I was in school there last week, and we had an author come and talk to us. I think his name is Jonathan Mayberry. He writes horror and whatnot. But he said, be careful when you're tweeting and you run in your blog, because if you say something negative, it could come back to haunt you, and it'll stay with you forever. So you're learning the lesson the hard way, Brandon, right?
Apparently I am. Forever, I don't know.
That's all LCS was.
Forever, but we'll see.
I know. That's all I did back in the day at LCS was just make fun of
That's all you did was just bust everybody's balls.
I know. So
you did what now?
That's why they don't
understand that.
That's why you get the hi-hat.
Yeah, that's why no one comes on our show, because I used to be a smart-ass. And I used to always make fun about everybody, and look what it's taught me.
Mike
Yeah,
I believe that. I find that hard to believe.
No.
Another
I mean,
mail.
Oh, listen, I completely. Oh, look, Karate Kid's up. I completely believe that to be the case. Look, here's the thing about Mike Dell. Mike Dell, and I know we have to talk to music, but let me just make this comment. Mike Dell, obviously, comes off. He's a very nice guy. He's polite. He's well-spoken. He's articulate. He's smart. All these things. I get the feeling he's an asshole. I get the feeling deep down that maybe you're a snarky MF. Maybe the occasional person unhappy.
Maybe in my younger days, but not in the last 10 years, right, Larry?
Oh no.
I think yes.
I think you try not to be that guy, but I think deep down inside you really enjoy being that guy.
No,
it's so much easier.
Wow.
It's so much easier to make fun of somebody than to love somebody.
It is. Let me tell you something. It's real easy to make fun of somebody, but that's why I try not to do it anymore. But yeah.
But you want
why?
to.
What's
right?
that? Well, what? Okay, look, and again, because I get that. Because look, I continue. That's kind of who I am. I'm a jerk. I'm kind of an asshole. And I accept that about me. But what? Do you flip that sort of mental switch because you think, well, I'm an adult now, so I'm supposed to not act that way?
No, it's all about raising your
yourself,
consciousness and becoming a spiritually evolved fellow.
Oh, please. Come on, really? Is that really what it is? Like, do you really believe that?
Yeah. Trying to change my perspective on reality and existence and all that.
Because if I'm not mistaken,
I like
the three of us are all roughly the same age. Yes, we've talked about this.
Yeah, Larry's a little older. He's like 43 or something.
Way older.
And 7'6". Amazing.
Like the Kimbe Matumbo over here.
But, it's all about when you meditate, Brandon, you learn some things,
What's a meditate?
You got to meditate. Quiet the mind. Be still and know.
Listen, I could meditate for fucking a week straight. My mind would just be like, what the hell are you doing? It would be yelling at me. It'd be like, stop it. Go make fun of somebody.
You want to evolve as a
Have
person, don't you, Brandon? You want to grow. You want to change. You want to become something else, right?
No. I mean, what? Look, bottom line is this. Like, I want to, there's things about me I want to change. Of course there are. Like, I don't like me. I'm not, you know, I don't like me. I tell my lady all the time, I'm like, I am so flawed, I'm a fuck up, like I feel like a loser. Absolutely, but at the same time, I don't know. I mean, I am who I am. Also,
well, see, that's what I used to do. Larry will tell you. Who hated themselves more than me, Larry? Nobody. You know?
I hated you more than you.
Well, that's true. But I was full of self-hate and bitterness and anger. And at some point, you got to let it go, you know?
I can't. I still have mine.
It just dawned on me. You're like me. You're a self-loathing Jew.
Well, I wasn't, you know.
I know it.
Not Jewish necessarily, but yeah, I used to be self-loathing.
Michael's short for Moshe. Moses Dell. I like it.
But all right. Enough of this self-evaluation. Let's get into why you're here, Brandon. The music.
Let's do it, Michael Delstein.
You love the music. No, we've been doing this. I think this is the third time we've done this little music.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Why don't you tell the people first of all what being a music expert? All right.
What the hell just happened there?
I think
Larry,
I'm getting
did
a
you hear
phone.
that too?
The Ed's calling me on the other line. He's good.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Enough of that, fella.
But tell the people what qualifies you to be a music expert and what you do every year with your little music collections.
Sure. I'll say, well, you know what qualifies me to be a music expert is a little something I like to call taste. And what I mean by that is this. You know, unlike most people that, you know, that don't apply this little thing called a filter, I actually, you know, take the time to listen to music and decide for myself, hey, that's good, that's not good. I don't just crank on the radio and let the man tell me, like, what I'm supposed to like, because otherwise it'd be nothing but Black Eyed Peas and CeeLo and Britney and Lady Gag and all that bullshit. So on top of it, though, if you know, fine, you know, a little website called Pitchfork Media, which is now one of the biggest, you know, online daily music sites in all the land. I worked for them for 3 years. You know, I've got credentials.
Yeah,
I have an inkling of what I'm talking about here.
That's right, Larry.
Huh. Yeah, Pitchfork Media. So sorry.
I don't even know what that means. That was the worst retort ever. But okay, look. No, I was just going to say, I mean, look, like Michael Dell wants to know where I come. Look, and bottom line is this as well. I have this conversation with my lady about this too. You know, you're free, and when I say you, I mean the general you. You are free to like whatever you like. I mean, it's not my place to tell you what's good or bad, what's right or wrong. I'm simply saying, look, this is what I like.
That's right.
This is good music.
That's right. But you're speaking from a point of expertise because you open yourself up to a wide range of music. Like you listen to more music than the average human, right?
I would say that's fair.
Yeah, I would say so. So consider that.
And you know what? And I'll base this. At least I would say that's fair based on the fact that, like, I know who all those bands are, like the Black Eyed Peas and so forth. Yet half the bands I name, most people are like, huh?
Yeah, I have no idea who they are.
Yeah. Right. That's exactly right.
Like, of your list, we got about 9 audio clips we'll play for the people. I've heard of 2 of these bands, 2 of the 9.
Of 2 of the 9 or 2 of every band on the list?
Just 2 of the 9 audio clips I got. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But yeah,
you're going to have to lay it on me. I don't even know what we're going to be listening to today.
Yeah, well, it'll be a surprise. But every year, you tell people you make 2 CDs, best of collections. One about all the best slow songs for the year.
That's right. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I kind of like let the ball drop on that. Yeah, right. So that's right. So and I say that in the quotations, fast and slow, because you know most songs these days I can't really qualify as one or the other. One just tends to be a little bit more upbeat. One's a little bit downbeat, if you want to say. And this year in 2010, I did Noon and Midnight. Those were my 2 mixes this year. That's right.
Yeah,
Noon being the faster of the 2.
Yeah, and Midnight the slow tracks.
Sure.
Lovely. All right, well, here, we'll bust out let's start with a band called Sleigh Bells. Larry,
sure.
You have that clip? And the song is called Infinity Guitars. So let's listen to it first, and then we'll have Brandon comment. All right?
Step forward,
Yeah, there it is, Sleigh Bells, Infinity Guitars. First of all, what did you think of that, Larry?
That song is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. That song is bananas. I don't know. That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. Now, what should we know about Sleigh Bells, Brandon?
Well, look, let me just say a couple of things about that song in particular. It's, structurally and lyrically, I'm not going to say it's genius. I will say, though, in terms of that little riff and everything and the simplicity of the song, it's very catchy. I really enjoy it. And I would think Mike Dell, by the way, as somebody who I know likes a good guitar riff, be it White Stripes or Nirvana, I would almost think you would enjoy that song. A little.
Yeah, sort of. The little guitar riff I kind of enjoyed, but
yeah.
You know what it reminded me of? What was that band that sang that song? Because this is is this just one lady and one dude?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And what was that band like a couple years ago? They had that really stupid song about you can call me or the Ting Tangs or the Yin Yang.
That's the Ting Tings, and that's the song. That's Not My Name. That's exactly right. Yeah, I think it's very similar in a way to that one. And you know what? I love that song too.
Well, it's the exact same song, basically.
Well, it's not the exact same, but I'll say this though too. First of all, the video, and I'm not who gives a rat's ass about videos anymore, but Sleigh Bells actually made a really kick-ass video for that song, Infinity Guitars. The other thing too, again, that was actually a fairly mainstream song this year, which is weird.
I never heard of it.
Yeah, that's the odd thing about it. It wasn't like some band that who. It actually got a lot of airplay, and I'm really dig it. It's just guy walking around playing his guitar and some broad dropping vocals. Good stuff. I love it. I mean, I love that. Right. So the album as a whole is it's pretty good. It's not great, but okay.
Now here's a band I actually heard of. I never enjoyed, but I heard of them. Arcade Fire.
Yeah.
And I saw you have 3 or 4 of their songs on your collection. You love Arcade Fire.
Well, I have 2. I mean, I only put per each disc. I'll not repeat a band more than once on each disc.
Oh, okay. Hey, Larry. Larry loves the Tosh.0. Brandon, you don't like Tosh.0, but Larry, did you see the Tosh.0 with the kid who wanted to be a comedian and he wasn't? His catchphrase was beans and cornbread. All right. Well, anyway,
awesome.
he was like the worst comedian ever. But Tosh brought him out, have a web redemption, and he got a new catchphrase called beans and cornbread. I like beans and cornbread. But he was trying to be an alternative comic, and he came on stage and he said, "Arcade Fire, who listens to that band anymore?" And apparently, Cousin Brandon likes Arcade Fire.
Oh, well. And before, I don't even know what song you're playing, but let me just tell you beforehand. Not only do I love their 2010 release, The Suburbs. I don't know if you noticed. That was my pick for Record of the Year.
Oh, wow. Arcade Fire.
Right.
All right, Larry, let's hear Arcade Fire. The song is City with No Children. Oh,
fantastic.
What a glorious place that would be. Arcade Fire, City with No Children. Now, I always like to get Larry's response first. Larry, what'd you think?
Sure. I think that song would have been perfect on the Pretty in Pink soundtrack. Just had that kind of 80s romantic comedy, John Hughes kind of film to it. It had that kind of feel with it. I don't know.
Yeah. What do you think of that, Brandon?
I think he's a dick. Listen, a couple things. First off, let me point out, in all fairness, though, too, we're also listening to these songs right from the get-go. So of course we're not going to like get into like the chorus of it. You know what I mean?
Well,
So
sometimes
let's be fair
I
to
take
the
clips
song
from the
here.
middle. We'll see.
No, I know. Okay, I'm just saying with that one in particular, let's just be fair. But here's the thing: the record itself is pretty incredible. It's all about it's called The Suburbs, and guess what? It's sort of a concept album about the suburbs.
So how do you feel about
how
concept albums? I thought those were
I love
in
them.
the 70s.
I love them, and this one works very subtly. But it's all about like the homogenized sort of weirdness, I guess, of like the suburbs. That it's always got this sense of like this quietness where nothing happens, and yet it's where they make this weird news in a sense. All the weird shit always happens in the suburbs. But it's also a sort of it's kind of a cool record too. It's kind of a going back record because Win Butler, the lead singer, I guess, they've sort of become something of like this like Canadian collective. But he's actually from Texas, and in that song there, he talks about driving back through Houston and everything. So yeah, it's kind of a cool song. It's just the record itself. It's very good. I mean, I really, really do like it very, very much.
All right, now the third clip we got for you is a little band called Harlem, and
Sure.
the song is called Pissed. Now this is almost like a punk rock song, a little bit, almost.
It really is. It's very much like they're very much a garage
Yes.
band. So yeah.
Okay, Larry, here it is, Harlem and Pissed. Yeah, there it is, Harlem Pissed. Yeah, very garage rock sounding, and also it's kind of like from the 60s or something. It almost sounds like an early Rolling Stones vocally or something. You know what I mean? Like that kind of 60s British. Do you get that feeling?
Let me just say right off the bat, I knew, Mike Dell, you would like that track. You did like that, yes?
Well, that's the closest one we've got that I almost like. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew you would though too. I mean, like again, like considering the music you like, I don't see how that's not right up your alley in a way. I mean, it's something of a fuller sound than say like White Stripes again because you're dealing with the two-piece. But again, that's about as close as you're going to come to like rock. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like that's just like, and again, another Texas band, and I do have to give the lady credit. She turned me on to those guys. I had never heard of them, and I love that record. It's a record called Hippies, and it's fantastic. It's really good.
By the way, well, Larry, what do you want to say about Harlem? What do you think?
What's that, Jack White's eighth band now?
No, that has nothing to do with Jack White, please.
If I could reach through the phone, so help me, I would put your face into the carpet.
But,
By the way,
Brandon,
I'm
real
pretty
quick.
sure Daniel LaRusso's gay, just so you know. I've watched all these movies, and I don't know how that's not the underlying subtext of every one of these goddamn... He's in love with an old man.
Yeah.
He is. Sorry, but it's all
Taking a
together.
shot at the Karate
I don't
Kid.
care what you say. You love Miyagi-san. And not in a father figure kind of way.
Hey, Larry, by the way, I forgot, this past season on Psych, Karate Kid was on. What's his name?
Machio? Ralph Macchio?
Yeah, Ralph Macchio. He was on Psych. He did a part on Psych.
Wow, he did
Like
something.
one episode?
Yeah, one episode. The whole episode he was on. Not just a cameo. The whole episode he was a character. Yeah, something.
Wow.
I like Ralph Macchio.
Yeah,
I'll watch
check it out.
What is he
Brandon,
now?
you
He's
mentioned
like 67, 68, is that right?
Hey, he still looks young. He still looks younger than Larry.
I
by
bet
a
he
long
does.
shot.
He's an old man. Oh, well.
Well, Brandon, you mentioned real quick that your lady turned you on to the Harlem there, and we should mention that she was in town for like 2 weeks. So how'd that go?
She was in town for 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
Yeah,
Oh,
God.
She was scheduled to be here for a week. We you know what? We went to Philadelphia, ready to take her to the airport to take her back, and you know what? We decided, we're like, you know what? Stay.
Oh, look at
Stay
you.
a bit longer. Why can't you stay?
It's like an Natalie Portman movie.
She stayed longer, and then you'll remember there was that recent about a week ago. There was all the bad weather in the Northeast, so all those flights. There was the fear of being canceled and everything. So we pushed it back a few more days. So before you know it, she was here 19 days.
19 days, Joe.
19 glorious days I got to spend with my lady.
And by like day 17, were you like, all right, enough, go back to Texas? That kind of thing?
No, not at all. No,
Yeah.
it really was. It was great. I'll tell you what. God damn. The only problem is, I ate so much fucking bread and cheese while she was there. Like, we joked about it. That, like,
I don't even know what that means.
We existed on loaves of bread and just fucking cheese. My colon couldn't have been angrier. It was literally my colon literally came out of my body and smacked me in the face and took a dump on my face. Literally happened.
That literally happened?
That actually happened, yes.
That can't be good. All right. The fourth
who else
clip.
is mad, though, with Brandon's visit? I think I heard mensbehinds.com was all angry at Brandon for not showing up for 19 days.
Oh, no, I showed up. Listen,
okay.
Look, hey, Larry, the lady slept.
That's right.
No, you know. Look, perhaps you've not seen the Craigslist Killer, but you know what the Craigslist Killer did? He waited until his burgeoning wife went to sleep, and then you know what he did? He got on the internet and he found the victims on which to prey, and he was like, "Hey, ladies, I'll meet you at the hotel. Maybe we get together. We have a drink. Next thing you know, get on the floor." And then
but see, this is concerning for me because when did the Craigslist Killer sleep? I think he's burning the candle at both ends.
He's a Craigslist Killer. He was a crazy, crazy fella.
Yeah. Well, he better.
Brandon, did you watch the Craigslist Killer movie that was on Lifetime recently?
This is why I know. I watched it with my lady.
You are so gay.
The Lifetime. Listen,
but Larry, you knew there was a Killer. I didn't know such a movie existed on Lifetime, but Larry, you apparently knew about it.
Exactly. Thank you very much. I have no problem admitting I watched it with my lady, not my boyfriend, Larry. So you can tell Steve or whatever his name is that you didn't enjoy it either. But for the record, let me just tell you something. One of the great things about my lady is this. She and I, not only do we both love movies, we also both love bad movies. So we love to sit there and like watch a bad movie together and just laugh and be like, "This is horrible."
What's a bad movie? Everything you like is bad.
Oh, please. Listen, excuse me, Satan. You have no idea what it is you're talking about, number one. Number two, Hootie, look, I can tell you actually a few, like, best movie of 2010. You want to know the top three right now?
Yeah.
Probably have to be in some kind of order. Inception, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and number three. Oh, and probably Kick-Ass. Those are probably, I think that's my
Kick-Ass. Oh, give me a break.
Kick-Ass.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Kick-Ass was such a disappointment.
You know what? This phone call is over. I hope you guys have a
No, Brandon, did you see the Black Swan yet?
No, I didn't. I hear it. You know what? I hear it's very good, but I've not seen it. Have you? Well, I'm sure Mike Dell, you've seen it several times.
I haven't. We're supposed to go see it maybe this week.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
She made out with Mila Kunis. You're lady.
I know, but here's the thing. Natalie Portman also has a movie out where she's banging Ashton Kutcher, and that's where I draw the line. You know?
Do you feel betrayed? Is that what you're saying?
That's a deal breaker. Yeah, it's a deal breaker, ladies. Yeah.
But what are you going to do? Wait. More importantly, though, she's with child. How does that make you feel?
I don't care about that, you know.
She's
but
not,
Ashton Kutcher.
wait a minute. Wait. It's not a little down.
Well, you know, you didn't hear.
What's A- going to say?
Yeah,
Can I talk to A-? What does she think?
Hey, she'll deal with it.
You never let me talk to her, by the way. All these times I've called in, not once have I really had a nice conversation to say, like, what in the hell do you see in this fella?
Well, feel free to call the house anytime. We're always around. All right, let's get back to the music. We got to get back to the music. Really, we're running out of time already. Clip 4, Larry. This band is called Best Coast, and the song is When I'm With You. Best Coast.
Give it a second. Slowly.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Best Coast, When I'm With You. Larry, what do you think?
I don't know. It's like the Beach Boys on acid.
On acid.
Larry, I think you hate to hate, you know?
I love to hate.
It's that self-loathing turns it outwards toward the world. See what happens? Yeah. But no disrespect to the Best Coast. I think it's a fine, catchy little song. But in all honesty, it reminds me of like at least 7 songs I've heard on doing your shows these past 3 years. You know, like it always sounds very similar to that. A lot of bands.
But you know what? In my mind, though, like say what you will, and I get your point. But like, doesn't that also say, maybe that speaks more to
your taste?
My taste in music. That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's true. But I don't know. I just would rather a band be distinctive. Like, when you're here, the minute you hear a song, you're like, oh, that's Best Coast. Or I don't know if I could do that.
That's a good point. That's a good point. A lot of bands I think that is a fair point. You're right. If Best Coast might not be a distinctive band, but like, even though he was disparaging it, Larry's right in saying that there's definitely a California type, sort of vibe to it. It's a little fuzzed out. It's good stuff. They're a fun band. The funny thing is that song actually first appeared. They put out an EP in 2009, and that song was on there. They put out like a bunch of little 7 inches in EPs, and that's where that song first appeared. But I'll tell you what, the album's called. I can't even give the name of the record. But I don't love the album. Like it's okay. It's not great, but that song is fantastic. Love it. Yeah. Very good. Very, very catchy song.
I'm trying to see, I'm on your blog here. Is Crazy for You, the album?
Crazy for You, yep, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, very good. Now, this next band I've heard of. I've heard your cousin Dave mention it quite a bit, I believe. But I never really heard any of their stuff until this. The band is called Spoon, and the song is Written in Reverse.
Oh, it's
Take it away, Larry.
Good.
I'm writing this to you in reverse. Someone better call a hearse. I can see it all from here, from just a few glimpses. Now that light bulb's gone off, and it's pulling my winces. Now the light bulb's gone off. I've seen it in your eyes. I've seen you blankly stare, and I wanna show you how I love you, but there's nothing there. I'm not standing here. I'm not standing here. I'm writing in reverse. Not in reverse. I'm not standing here. I'm not standing here. I'm not standing here. I'm writing in reverse. I know that could be worse. And I hear that famous song. And I hear I can't be wrong.
Yeah, Spoon, Written in Reverse. Larry, first impressions.
Well, like to me, first impression, it sounds a little bit like Beck meets Jason Mraz. And, I'm sorry, but it doesn't quite suit my musical preferences.
I don't know who Jason Mraz is.
Thank you. Once again, I was going to say Larry exposes himself for the fella he is. Jason
who's Jason Mraz? What is that?
Oh. So,
what?
Listen, hey, Larry, I have a kid. What's your excuse?
What do you mean? Jason Mraz had the #1 song for 9 months last year or something.
Yeah, I bet he did. Enjoy your radio stations. Look, let me say this to you about Spoon. Spoon, and we just talked about identifiable bands. Spoon actually started out. They're another Texas band. They started out years ago, and they were tagged with this label of oh, you're essentially just doing the Pixies. Now, I don't know if you guys are Pixies fans, but I'm a huge Pixies fan.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. Well, I thought Del possibly might be.
I know the Pixies. Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought you might.
Yeah.
There you go, because the Pixies are arguably top 3 favorite bands of all time. But anyway, so they started out with that label of sort of just being a Pixies knockoff, and they really developed into their own sound. That last song you just heard is from the record this year, Transference. The record, it's kind of all over the place, and I really like it, but it's more, a little bit more lo-fi. The last couple of records have been more produced than this, but I'll tell you what, if you have any listeners who are I kind of like that, I want to check out Spoon, tell you what, go pick up a series of Sneaks and go pick up Girls Can Tell. Those are the 2 records you want to get.
All right, a couple things about the song. First of all, Spoon, easily the best band I've ever heard named after a utensil. I'll give them that.
Thank you.
And then, but that first line has got to go. I'm writing this in reverse. Somebody call a hearse. That's terrible.
It's a weird line, but I like the delivery of it. I'll be honest with you.
I don't.
It's very because it's very rhythmically. It's off. After write this in reverse. Somebody call a hearse. The 2 don't match up rhythmically. So lyrically, it's kind of silly, but I really like the fact that it doesn't match up rhythmically.
Well, I think it's poorly constructed, writing-wise.
I will fight you. Okay.
Take away that one word, and I'd probably like that. But yeah, because then the rest of the song, I'm just thinking, hearse, really? That's what you're going with?
Yeah, but the funny thing is, Mike, I think that's my favorite part of the song is the opening couplet because it's so off. Yeah, I like it a lot. I know. What can I say?
All right, Larry, let's go to next. Let's do Matt Pond, PA.
Sure.
Which, what's that, southeastern Pennsylvania? Matt Pond? Is that down there?
Well, we'll discuss them in a minute. All right, let's hear the track and we'll talk about them.
And the song's called Ruins.
We're just being funny when you cut down my tree. I was hanging my hat on the balcony. We're just being clever. There's so much I don't know. I'll be treating my outline in the sunshine. I got hit with the handle when you slid through my coat. Now I'm searching through empty pockets, saying, fill me up with your coat. I'll make a ladder. Got these perfumes. Take it higher. Oh, how lovely.
Yeah, Matt Pond, PA, Ruins. Larry.
Yes.
All right, that was your best response of the evening. Well done.
Yes. I don't know. It wasn't bad, I guess.
Oh, there you go. Well, Larry found a song he enjoys.
No, hey, I'm glad to hear that.
It's hard to hear, but it wasn't bad.
Yeah, everything sounds a little weirder via the hookup we got going on. But honestly, that's one of my favorite songs of the year. I think it's really super catchy. But Matt Pond, he's actually from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I believe. And he's been around for quite a while now.
Does he churn his own butter?
Yes.
I do not think he's Amish, although that would kick ass. he's had a ever-revolving band along with him, and honestly, I'll tell you what, he put out a record. Shit, it was probably, God, I wouldn't be surprised if it was late 90s, early 2000s, called Measure. That was really good, and it's more like orchestral pop type stuff. Since then, I don't think he's really made a good album, to be honest. But like that song,
I can believe it.
I was crazy about. How dare you? How fucking dare you? Look, there's no denying I'll catch you guys. And by the way, something I'd recommend that's really funny. Go on the if you go to my blog post where I link to that song, you can watch them performing it live on like this Florida AM talk show, and like the hosts of the show are just, oh God, it's just embarrassing to watch. But like they sound great. The band sounds great, but I love watching it just because I'm like, oh, this is just horrible to watch. So,
all right,
Matt Pond, PA. Hey,
Matt Pond, PA.
Right. That's right.
All right, next up, Larry, let's go to AV Buffalo. AV
Buffalo.
Yeah. They're very good. And this song's called What's In It For? Or What's It In For? What's It In For? I'm sorry.
Oh, my God.
I walked in on a plan to dissolve all of your wishes, but I couldn't help your mouth shine this back 2 inches. Maybe I thought that you and I could run away alongside, but I didn't understand. I was a cold tear in your eyes. What's in it for someone with nothing to do? What's in it for me? What's in it for someone with nothing to do? What's in it for me? I can read, but I won't if I'm sleeping here without you.
Yeah, AV Buffalo. What's It In For? Larry, there's an obvious joke there. Do it.
I don't know what it is.
Oh, well, I didn't know the Garden State soundtrack had another song. It's the same. It's the Shins, right?
I have no idea.
Isn't that the exact
I'm
same
not
band?
dignifying that. I'm
Really, it's the same song. All right.
Huh.
Yeah. If you close your eyes,
I'm not
you
sure.
picture Zach Braff and Natalie Portman walking through the garbage dump
please.
or whatever.
Oh, good Lord. I don't know. You know.
Larry, I think you like it.
It kind of reminded me of like, I don't know, a little bit like Mamas and the Papas.
Really?
Yeah, it's totally throwbacky. It's
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. I
You
kind of got
should
that
like
vibe.
it. What's not to like about that song? Like, look, I'm done with the Shins. I retired them halfway through their second record, which I said the first half of that second record is very good. After that, the Shins have been dead to me. And by the way, I think we've discussed this too. I know Marty, who used to play, or maybe still does, play keyboards for the Shins. I met him out in New Mexico. He's the one that beat his woman, the one that was on America's Next Top Model. Do you know that story?
No.
No.
Okay, so I'm sure you've seen the Tyra Banks. I'm sure Larry's seen it. America's Next Top Model. It was maybe the first season. There was some tall drink of water. She had a short dark hair, whatever. Marty from the Shins was dating her. Apparently, she filed a report with the police that there's some domestic abuse charge.
Oh.
He laid his hands on her, apparently.
Look
Beat
out.
her, but good. Yeah, exactly. And which was a shame, too. Like I said, I'd met this guy several times. He was very nice. But that's not why I gave up on the music. The music just turned to shit. It was just so fucking boring, I couldn't even listen to it anymore.
So you can stomach domestic abuse, but, put out a bad record, not so much.
Priority.
All right, let's go with one more here, Larry.
How many songs do we have left here?
Well, I got 2 sound clips left. We got 10
Let's
minutes.
do them both. We have what?
All right,
we have 11
we can
minutes.
hurry up.
Let's hear them both.
All right, well, let's start with this guy here, because you need to explain this selection. Roky Erickson.
Oh, I'll be happy to. I was hoping you were gonna say that.
Devotional number 1.
Good.
Get a load of this one, Larry. All right, Roky Erickson.
No, like, listen, if you're going to set it up that way, why even listen to it? I mean, that's not fair. Put it on. I want to talk.
Jesus met Moses drinking from a well. Moses thought he was
just got back from hell. When he took his tablets out, the birds began to sing. Wasn't this a lovely dish to set before the king? For Jesus did not and does not.
There you go. That gives you the flavor of Roky Erickson, devotional number 1. Larry, what do you think?
Like if Todd Teacher ever plugged in.
That's exactly what I thought. I thought that was our buddy Todd Teacher doing a song.
I've heard the Todd Teacher, and that is not a compliment.
Oh, come on, that was great.
No, I'm saying you're disparaging Roky Erickson is what you're doing. I don't like that.
But, so what gives with this Roky Erickson fella? Is this a bit?
Look.
Is he doing a gag?
No. Let me tell you a couple things about this. First of all, that record is with this other band that you've probably not heard called Ockerville River, which is another Texas band that Roky Erickson fronts them for the record. That song is not indicative of the rest of the record. Secondly, Roky Erickson fronted a band back in the 60s called the 13th Floor Elevators. They were a total garage rock band, and they had a big hit, for instance, with a song called You're Gonna Miss Me. That brings me to my third point. Again, I know how much you like my documentary recommendations. Go watch a documentary of the same name called You're Gonna Miss Me, all about Roky Erickson and his battle with schizophrenia. The guy's a nutcase, man.
All right, well, that explains a lot.
Now, I'm telling you, the documentary is fucking fantastic. It's really, really good. Larry, I know, already hates it because I said documentary and he's thinking Man on Wire.
That's right.
I get it. Fine. But I'm telling you, check that out. His story is very interesting. The record on the whole, I'll be honest, I don't love the record. I love Ockerville River, but that song in particular, knowing Roky Erickson's story, I find it to be an amazing song. I love it.
All right.
Oh, I can watch You're Gonna Miss Me, via the computer on the Netflix.
You can.
Maybe I'll watch
right.
it like
there
this
you go.
weekend. Yeah.
Look at you, Larry.
Man on Wire double feature.
Yeah.
And then after that, you know what? You want to watch a really fucked up one, Capturing the Freedmans. By the way,
I've seen that.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've seen that.
Did you watch it?
I did see that. Yeah.
What'd you think about that?
I don't know. It was so hard to tell. Like, they accused his father and son of molesting these kids.
Oh, yeah.
But then, on one hand, like you're like, well, yeah, maybe they did. But then on the other hand, you're like, there's no way. They seemed like they were just, teaching computer. It was computer lessons or something. And
you just don't know what to believe exactly, right?
Yeah,
but it's such a disturbing movie, isn't it?
It's just such the deterioration of a family. The wife.
That's exactly right.
It's a good film. It's weird.
It is. And that brings me to a point I was just going to make. I don't know if you guys would be interested in this. Why don't we do one night as a top 11 documentary?
Oh, I like that.
Well,
I like that.
I'd go all conspiracy kind of documentary.
Still,
hey,
I
whatever
it's
you
a good
want.
Topic. There's so many good documentaries.
All right, yeah, let's do it. Book it.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so how about, do we have time for one more song? And then
one more. This one's Wye Oak. Wye Oak.
Oh, that's a great song. Yeah.
And it's called My Neighbor. And I asked, why oak? Well, it's stronger than pine. That's what I
Well,
think.
wait, before you play this one, too, let me just preface this one also. This is yet another two-man band with the lady and it's a male drummer, lady vocalist who also plays guitar. And they are a very, very cool band live. They've got a good little stage presence to them. But
the old reverse white stripes.
You got it.
Switcheroo.
You got it.
All right, Larry, Wye Oak.
Oh,
My neighbor, Larry.
I don't know. It's all right. Nothing, I don't know. No substance to it, I guess. I don't know. Nothing great.
Yeah.
Well, again, I will say this. You talk about a definitive sounding band. If I hear them, I know it's them. And again, that's a pretty nice full sound for a two-piece, no? I mean, really, give them some credit for, really, she goes apeshit on guitar. It's pretty nice. So,
what else would be nice? How about a third member and, take some of the pressure off yourself? Stop mumbling.
Nah.
Stop mumbling.
Nah. You know what? That's just another mouth to feed. You know what I'm saying? It's tough times out there on the road, Larry. We're in a tough economic time here, and here you are wanting to, throw the money around, big spender. Fine.
Yeah,
all right, here's another question. Is she hot? Because that'll change things.
She's okay. I mean, she's not...
forget
she's not ugly.
band.
She's okay.
She's an attractive lady.
Yeah, she's okay.
I'm going to look her up.
I went and got...
no on this band.
I got all the audio clips. You want to see a lady? Go look at what Sleigh Bells that she's dressed in a little Catholic schoolgirl outfit.
Yeah, she's cute. Yeah, sure. So is another one that's cute. Check out the I forget if she made my mix or not. She might not have, but Marnie Stern. That's another one. She's and also good, really good guitarist. But Marnie Stern, you want to go check her out too.
And
anyway,
we should mention that your past music compilation show is what inspired the classic quote. Holy hell, I gotta have these women, right?
Is that right?
We were talking about the Vivian girl.
Well, I don't even know what we were talking about.
The Vivian girl. Remember the Vivian
girl?
Oh,
is that right? Holy hell.
Yeah, and you said, well, it's not like holy hell, I gotta have these women, but yeah, they're all right, yeah.
Well, see, I'll tell you what, that's the other thing. One of these days, don't get me wrong, I love my intro. One of these days, we might have to retool that. We might have to find new sound bits. But let me, because I know you got to go and I got to go too. How about that? I'm going to make a quick plug, a weird plug, if that's all right.
Sure.
And I'm going to give you the name of, I think, what's going to be my new Twitter account, which I already started.
Oh.
But I've not tweeted from it yet. But I'm just going to tell you what it is. It's I had to get rid of the Cousin Brandon altogether. It's at Judy Bloom.
Really?
It really is, but it's Judy, JEWDY BLUME, at Judy Bloom. That's right.
Tip of the cap to the people. There it is.
That's right. So
now
yeah,
that Cousin Brandon is open, though, can Larry go name his Twitter account at Cousin Brandon?
Well, I've not deleted it yet, so he can't do any shit like that yet. But if he wants to, by all means.
Larry, you got to be all over that the minute it becomes available.
Oh, yeah, I'll be right on there didn't get fired, still jacking off on everybody's desk.
If you just talk about your cock and shit I'm sorry, in your case, talk about your vagina. Do that, and people will know immediately, it's Cousin Brandon being silly. So, yeah.
Well, let's remind the people, Cousin Brandon's Mr. Hipster blog, cousinbrandon.wordpress.com, and you can find the entire best of 2010. And
not just mine too. Other folks. My cousin Matt's mix is up there now. My lady's recent mix is up there.
Ooh, I didn't know that. I got to see what Yoko.
Yeah. My buddy Mike in Seattle. His mix is up there. Lots of new music posts up there right now.
Wow.
So grab
that up. Anybody have I Got a Feeling on their list? Because this guy would.
Well, if you got a feeling on your cock, doesn't. Yeah, anyway, nobody wants to hear that. All right, fellas.
Cousin Brandon, thank you so much. It's always a
pleasure as always. Love doing the music show with you guys. So have a good night. Bye.
All right, buddy. There he goes. Brandon Damashek, Cousin Brandon. Once again, at Judy Bloom on the Twitters. And cousinbrandon.wordpress.com. What about it, Larry? 2010 music review. What do you think?
Yep, it sucked like 09, 08. We've been doing, this is what, 10th year, 11th year we've been doing this?
I think the third. I think it's the third time we've done it.
Yeah. Oh, it feels like 11. But
it's always my favorite show of the year. I really enjoy hearing these strange music bands that I've never heard of.
I really don't.
Yeah.
I really don't. But I couldn't name one band from last year, and next year I won't be able to tell you one person off of this year's list.
It's kind of cool because it's almost like traveling in the future, because then I always hear about one of these bands like 8 months later, you know?
Yeah, I'm sure Harlem's going to break out someday.
No, they won't.
Yep. No, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But,
they'll still be in Texas 20 years from now.
Nice to hear the different music, so, you know, it's great. All right, Larry. Well, we should be having a guest any moment now.
Yeah.
So you keep.
But until then, Michael, do you think the Clarks? Do you think they'll ever get out of Pittsburgh? Because they're huge.
Pittsburgh's own the Clarks. Now, did you watch the Winter Classic stuff, Larry? Like on NHL Network and stuff, they did a whole segment with the Clarks.
Nah, I missed all that.
Yeah, and needless to say, I turned the channel quickly. I'm not a fan of the Clarks. Yeah, but
I see.
what can you do?
All right.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What's their big song? Is there a guest here?
I don't know. There's somebody with their hand up. I don't
well, there
know
it is.
our guest.
I'm sure it's him. Yeah, put him on, and let's see if it's James Fetzer.
All right, hold on. 248. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
James, is that you?
Not James. This is Matt Diggs calling. How you doing?
Oh, Matt Diggs.
Oh, Matt Diggs. Oh.
We're expecting
sorry,
James
Matt
Fetzer,
Diggs.
conspiracy expert, and you're calling in. What is going on?
No, it was going to be some other conspiracy expert. Well, I'll just sit back if you want.
Well, do you have any questions or anything?
Well, I don't know. What'd you think of my emails last week there, Mike?
Ridiculous.
Hey, Mike, I think he's here now.
Oh, wait, Matt Diggs, we got to go. But do you have any questions for James Fetzer?
I don't know what he's going to do. I guess maybe I'll just let you guys wing it, and if I think of something, I'll call back.
All right, sorry, Matt. Yeah, Matt Diggs, Detroit Red Wings fan and Kyle Quincy fan club president. Matt Diggs. We haven't heard from him in a while. Call back next week. We don't have anything planned. All right, there goes Matt Diggs. Larry is our guest here then?
I guess. All right, hold on. 608 area code. Are you there?
Yes, I am. I am here.
Hey, James Fetzer. There he is. How you doing, buddy?
Good, real good. Glad to be here, Michael.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the show. Thanks for making the time for us. And Larry, my co-host, meet James Fetzer, conspiracy expert.
Hello.
Larry,
very nice to meet you.
How are you doing, Larry? Good.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Now, James, we got to remember that Larry here, sometimes talking to conspiracies makes him a little uncomfortable. He has to sleep with the lights on. Is that right, Larry?
No.
he gets a little nervous, but it's all right. It'll be okay, Larry. But James, for people who aren't familiar with your work, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself, how you got started in conspiracy research and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, well, my background is as a professional scholar. I earned my undergraduate degree at Princeton in philosophy. I served 4 years as a commissioned officer in the Marine Corps. I resigned my commission as a captain to study the history and philosophy of science, in which I earned my PhD. I spent 35 years as a university professor teaching courses mostly in logic, critical thinking, scientific reasoning. I published 29 books. My most recent is co-edited on the place of probability in science. And about 20 years ago, I became very serious about research on JFK, organized a research group consists of the most highly qualified individuals to ever study the case, a world authority on the human brain who is also an expert on moon ballistics, a PhD in physics who is also an MD and board certified in radiation oncology, which is a treatment of cancer using X-ray therapy. So he's an X-ray expert in the interpretation of X-rays, a physician who actually was present when JFK was brought into Trauma Room 1 and then was responsible 2 days later for the treatment of his alleged assassin, a legendary photo analyst who testified before the HSCA when it reinvestigated the case in 1977-78 and later advised Oliver Stone on the production of JFK, and then another PhD in physics, this time with a specialization in electromagnetism, including the properties of light and images of moving objects. I wound up co-chairing 4 national conferences, publishing 3 books, collections of experts, studies by experts on different aspects of the case because it's so complicated. Assassination Science in 1998, Murder in Dealey Plaza in 2000, and the Great Zapruder Hoax in 2003. So I've made a lot of appearances, hundreds of radio interviews and all that, and I'm really very pleased to be here today.
Well, I find that hard to believe. But now you said you've only been 20 years in the JFK research. Do you remember what the one instance was that got you involved, or wow, I got to really look into this more? Because it seems like that was a late start almost to getting into it.
Well, I had a long-standing interest I was a Marine Corps officer and anchored out in the Iwo Jima, which was a shallow-based carrier for helicopters in Kaohsiung Harbor in Formosa, when I was awakened at 3:30 in the morning by the officer of the deck, who told me the president had been shot, and then an hour later came back and told me they caught the guy who done it and he was a communist. I thought that was very fast work.
Yeah.
But when I returned to the United States, I became interested. I read a number of books. I started following the case and thinking about it. But in 1992, in the wake of the release of Oliver Stone's film JFK, my wife nudged me when I was just in bed drinking a cup of coffee and reading the paper and said, "You're not going to believe this." She turned on the television, and there was this very distinguished-looking man standing behind a lectern with the logo of the American Medical Association, who was attacking everyone who'd ever done serious work on the assassination. Mark Lane, David Lifton, Robert Groden. I mean, his list was practically endless. He was attacking Oliver Stone's film as docu-fiction. And I just knew what he was saying was grossly wrong, and he was promoting a political agenda, even though he was the editor-in-chief of the Journal of the AMA. And it just seemed to me that if someone in that position was going to abuse his authority, that maybe some of those of us who had special background and ability ought to become involved in this case. Later, some letters to the editor were published in the journal. One came from a fellow named David W. Mantic, who had both an MD and a PhD, and I really liked what he had to say, so I contacted him and suggested we collaborate on a long article or a book. Soon I was contacted by a couple of others who wanted to join us, and that was how the nucleus of this research group came to be put together.
Yeah, and you've been into the JFK research ever since. And some of our listeners might have seen you just I guess it may have been a couple months ago now, on the Jesse Ventura show, Conspiracy Theory, the JFK episode. You were helping Jesse with the rifle, and he was trying to replicate what Oswald supposedly did when he shot Kennedy. What was it like being on that show and meeting Jesse Ventura?
Well, Jesse and I have a long history. Actually, when he was governor, he came up to Duluth, where I was teaching on the Duluth campus of the University of Minnesota, because my first book, Assassination Science, had just appeared. He invited me to come on his weekly radio show, which was being held at an aquarium in Duluth, which was a public-private venture, but it was losing money. He had an hour-long show. In the first 15 minutes, he talked about the aquarium. In the other 45 minutes, we talked about JFK. Then when he had his TV program, Jesse Ventura's America, on MSNBC, he had only about 8 segments, but the 7th was devoted to JFK, and he had Aubrey Wright, who was Beverly Oliver, who actually witnessed Jack's brains be blown out of the back of his head. Aubrey Wright, the ambulance driver who felt this nasty blowout to the back of the head when he was loading him into the casket through the sheet. And then I explained how the autopsy x-rays had been altered to conceal that blowout, which David Mantic had discovered during his first visit to the National Archives in November of 1992. And then when Jesse was back at the Kennedy School of Government as a visiting professor, he invited me to come back. He had a one day a week course he presented with visiting lectures. He invited me to come back and give a lecture about the assassination, which I believe was the only conspiracy theory lecture ever given about the death of JFK at Harvard.
Yeah.
Now, when we did this thing, for his new show on True TV, he asked me to set it up. So what I did was, determine the right dimensions and all that to lay out a simulation. And we used, bales of hay for the targets and then located, silhouettes on each of them. Jesse had a far superior Mannlicher Carcano that was a much smoother operating weapon than Oswald had. And Jesse himself had qualified as an expert, so he was a much better shooter. And yet with 3 replications, I think Jesse scored actually 1 hit, and his times were, never really remotely close to what was supposed to have taken place if you assume the Zapruder film is authentic. We discovered it's actually fake, but it was a very convincing demonstration that even with stationary targets, a better weapon and better shooter, you couldn't replicate what Oswald was alleged to have done.
Yeah, now, I know from other correspondence with you that you think very highly of the Jesse Ventura show that came out there. You think it's one of the best JFK programs on TV in recent years, right?
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt that is the single best 1-hour program on JFK ever produced, ever put on television. And the fact that it wove in, evidence implicating 4 presidents, and that's extremely important because we had a succession of occupants of that office who would never have held it but for the death of JFK. The first, obviously, was Lyndon Johnson, who was profoundly involved in the assassination. Then Richard Nixon, who had actually been present at a ratification meeting at the home of Clint Murchison the night before. Then, of course, we had Gerald Ford, who had, as a member of the Warren Commission, changed the description of the wound to the back, which actually hit Jack about 5.5 inches below the collar and just to the right of the spinal column. It was a shallow shot, only went in about as far as the second knuckle of your little finger at a downward angle. He had it redescribed from his uppermost back, which was already an exaggeration, to the base of the back of the neck to make this magic bullet theory more plausible. We have a massive evidence that contradicts it and shows that this was, a fabrication by Ford. And then finally, of course, George Herbert Walker Bush becoming president. He appears to have been a long-time official of the CIA as far back as the Bay of Pigs, for example, where 2 of the ships were rechristened. One was rechristened Houston, another the Barbara J. This is the sort of thing he did when he was flying in World War II. He named his planes after Barbara J. And the whole operation was called Operation Zapata, which was the name of the Bush family oil rigging company. So that I believe if the invasion had been a success, that his company might have got concessions for oil drilling all over the Caribbean.
Yeah, if it's one thing Larry's learned in being on the show with me in the past year, Larry, what is it? Keep an eye on those bushes, right, Larry? Because they're the root of all evil. Yeah. Prescott Bush. That's right, Larry.
Yeah, that was
Prescott
the thing
Bush.
that Jesse did was to bring in Russ Baker, who has this wonderful book, Family of Secrets. It's really quite excellent. I have my own radio show called The Real Deal, and I've interviewed Russ, and he's really a very smart guy. There are 3 books I would recommend, that being one of the 3 about the Bush involvement in all these terrible events. Second is by James Douglas, Douglass, entitled JFK and the Unspeakable, in which he talks about how Jack Kennedy evolved from a more or less conventional Cold Warrior to a statesman for peace, and in the process he antagonized some of the most powerful forces in the country, including, of course, the CIA, threatening to shatter it to pieces. He upset the Joint Chiefs because he didn't invade Cuba against their unanimous recommendation. He went ahead and signed an above-ground test ban treaty with the Soviet Union against their unanimous opposition. And now he's going to pull our forces out of Vietnam, where the chiefs believed that a stand had to be taken against international godless communism. Of course, he'd upset the mafia because Bobby was cracking down, bringing more prosecutions and convictions than ever in the history of the country. J. Edgar had always denied the existence of the mafia. It appears because they had compromising photographs of Edgar with his close personal friend Clyde Tolson. So Edgar was being blackmailed on a sexual basis, just as he would blackmail other politicians on a sexual basis. In fact, it appears that that's how Lyndon got on the ticket with JFK, by threatening to expose Jack's sexual escapades, which would have no doubt tarnished his reputation greatly. In addition, of course, he antagonized the Texas oilmen because he was going to cut the oil depletion allowance, which they regarded as something akin to their divine right. He also, of course, had instructed the Treasury Department to print United States notes, which it had done in the millions of dollars. I remember as a Marine Corps officer having one of these bills in my hand with a red embossed imprint and said United States note instead of Federal Reserve note. So the Eastern bankers and financiers were very upset about that because they were going to have their gravy train, this free ride they get for drawing interest on the printing of currency for the United States. So plus, he was planning to retire J. Edgar. I'm sure that the Oval Office was bugged, and Edgar knew what the Kennedys were planning to do practically before they did. And Lyndon, of course, wanted to become president of all the people. Well, this was quite an unholy alliance. And therefore, the third book I recommend is by a fellow named Phil Nelson. It's called LBJ, The Mastermind of JFK's Assassination. It's a completely brilliant book. So the 2 books by Douglas and by Nelson are complementary because the Douglas book explains how he antagonized all these powerful forces, and the Nelson book explains what they did about it, where LBJ was the pivotal figure. It was only he who could guarantee that the government wouldn't pursue those who were involved in the assassination. The whole idea was to take out JFK, and nobody was supposed to pay a price. some of you may remember Jack Ruby, who was one of the few of those involved who had a conscience, who observed that if someone else had been the vice president, that the assassination would never have taken place.
That's right. And then, of course, Ruby has that one clip where he's saying, there's a bigger conspiracy, or I don't even know if he used the word conspiracy, but he said if this stuff comes to light, people would be very upset. And they always try to make it seem like, oh, he's talking about something else. No, he was talking about what he was talking about. He knew there was other stuff going on, but getting back to the Jesse Ventura show, he did a good job of exposing just how immense the corruption was through our government, how all these presidents are linked. And people ask, well, what's the big deal? Here we are almost 50 years later. Most of the populace believes that there was some sort of conspiracy to kill Kennedy, yet a lot of people just don't care. They're like, oh, who cares? It's 50 years ago. But the reason it matters is because those people are still in charge of our government, The CIA is still running the show, and that's why it still matters all these years later, right, Jim?
Michael, you're absolutely right. It completely inverted our form of government. I mean, basically, the JFK was taken out because he believed he was president of the United States. Now, every president who has held that office afterwards has realized that there are powerful forces in the country and that if they do not conform to their wishes, that they might be subject to brutal elimination just as he was. So I think that we've had a government where the presidents have been under the gun ever since Jack's assassination, and as you suggest, there's a lot of continuity interest between the oil men and the CIA and those who support the Fed and the military-industrial complex, which has continued to this day to exert profound influence. I mean, there are major reasons why the vast majority of the federal government goes to supporting the military-industrial complex and not to making life better for the average American.
Yeah, Kennedy was like our last true president. Since he's died, it's been nothing but empty suits and shields in the White House ever since. And you can trace it back to Woodrow Wilson putting in the Fed and everything back in 1913 or whatever. But from there on, it's just our country's been going downhill ever since. It's about the bankers and the military-industrial complex. That's it.
I actually agree with that. And, of course, the Founding Fathers warned against having a central bank. They thought it was a bad idea and we shouldn't do it. They also warned against foreign entanglements. I mean, most recently, of course, in relation to Vietnam, even Douglas MacArthur was advising against becoming involved in a war on Asian soil. And, of course, what we're doing now is distributing our forces all over the world. We have this pseudo-empire that was the vision of the neocons with the demise of the Soviet Union. And the whole thing, of course, has been justified on the basis of the events of 9/11. And I got to tell you, if you've gone through all the machinations, all the forms of deception, faking photographs, films, fabricating evidence, framing the patsy and all that with JFK, when you come to 9/11, you're much more critical about what the government has told us. And in December of 2005, I formed Scholars for 9/11 Truth and brought together experts, pilots, physicists, structural engineers, mechanical engineers, aeronautical engineers. And basically, we've looked at what the government has told us, and we found virtually every claim the government has made about 9/11 has turned out to be false. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. As one scholar in Germany, Elias Davidson, has shown, the government was never even able to prove the hijackers were aboard any of the planes. David Ray Griffin, who may be the leading expert on 9/11, has established that all of the alleged phone calls from the 4 flights were faked. Colonel George Nelson, a U.S. Air Force retired expert, has observed that there are millions of uniquely identifiable component parts from those 4 planes, and yet the government has yet to produce even one. The whole thing is highly fraudulent, and it's very, very troubling how the mass media has been completely unwilling to pursue any of this, probably, no doubt, because it's infested with operatives from the intelligence agencies. As long ago as 1977, Carl Bernstein, who together with Woodward would write All the President's Men Exposing Nixon Chicanery, published an article in Rolling Stone in which he explained that it was entitled The CIA and the Media, and how CIA officials were boasting that their greatest successes had been with Time Life, with the New York Times, and with CBS. More recently, of course, Director William Colby, a former director of the CIA, observed that the CIA owns everyone of significance in the mass media. I think we have to take that seriously, and if we want to understand why the media really isn't publishing the important discoveries about JFK, 9/11, or any other serious issue that might undermine confidence in the government, it's because our mass media is controlled.
Yeah, we've talked about this before on the show, but just Google up Project Mockingbird, and you'll read all about stuff like that. CIA getting control of the media.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And yeah, because it's just tough. You can't publish anything about that testifies to the JFK conspiracy or 9/11 shenanigans without. They just won't run it. You know, they don't care. They're not going to tell the people the truth. They always got to hide the truth from the people. Now, but the two crimes are linked, the JFK assassination and 9/11, because it's no coincidence that a Bush was in the White House when 9/11 happened. You know, it was planned that way. It was orchestrated that way. It wasn't just
if you go back and trace the history of the Bush family back to Prescott Bush, who was a major supporter of the Nazis, it's really shocking history. In fact, George Herbert Walker Bush was one time overheard speaking in confidence, saying that if Americans knew what they'd done to the country, they'd be chased down the street and strung up. Yep. I mean, it's really astounding. And of course, you'll recall one of the more remarkable revelations from W. when he was president was when he was advised by members of his staff that something he was proposing was unconstitutional. He said, "That's just a goddamn piece of paper."
That's right. Yeah, W, he's a beauty. All right, but let's get back to JFK here real quick. And Jesse Ventura, there's one other point I wanted to make about that show. Some people were upset because there were mistakes in the show, like trying to identify the three tramps. He kind of went wrong there, and the Marina Oswald photos, he kind of bought that they were real. But it's not that everything in the show is right and correct. It's kind of, I looked at it as kind of like a JFK conspiracy for dummies, kind of like a novice, a first step into the investigation. If that exposes you to the subject matter and gets you interested in it, then it served its purpose. That's how I looked at it, right?
Well, I'll tell you, I wrote to his son Tyrell, who is the producer of the show. And when I first watched it, I thought there were three flaws. The only things I could see had to do with just the points you're mentioning, actually. One was identifying the third tramp as E. Howard Hunt. Another was, of course, Marina claiming to have taken the backyard photographs. And the third had to do with Oswald having shot Officer Tippit. And I went back over it. And what he actually says about the tramps is many researchers believe that the third tramp was E. Howard Hunt, which is true. Yes. He also said about the Tippit business that supposedly Lee had taken this route and then, emptied his revolver of shell casings, incriminated himself after having shot a police officer 3 times in the torso and once in the head, which is an absurd scenario and clearly false. I mean, the first officer on the scene had found 4 shell casings, which had been ejected from automatics. There were 3 of one manufacturer and 1 of another. He initialed them. Later, there was a substitution in the evidence, and now you had 4 shell casings, but they were 2 and 2 of different makes, and now they were from a revolver, not an automatic, and they no longer had the initials. The one bona fide mistake I think he made was in saying that he agreed with Marina, who told him that she had taken the photographs, and the reason is, as Jim Mars and I explained in an article we published entitled The Dartmouth JFK Photo Fiasco, there are about a dozen indications that the photos are faked. Lee said when he was shown one of these that it was his face pasted on someone else's body. That turns out to be correct. There are 4 different of these photographs. They all have exactly the same face, even though they're taken at different times. There should be different expressions, different channels. They're exactly identical. The chin is not Oswald's chin, which was a pointed chin that came to a cleft. It's a rounded, more blocked chin. There's an insert line between the chin and the lower lip. The fingertips of the right hand are cut off. And Jack White, who's the legendary photo analyst I mentioned only by description before, took the known dimensions of the newspapers, the militant and the worker he's holding, as an internal yardstick and laid it off to determine the height of the individual in the photograph. And he's only about 5'6", whereas Lee Oswald was 5'10", which means that they either use someone too short to stand in for him, or what is more likely, when they introduce the newspapers, they put him in too large. So we know by many different indications that the photos are fake, which means Marina cannot possibly have taken them, because no one takes a fake photograph, and that's what's important about them. They're fake. No one took them. So that's the one bona fide mistake. I think the rest of it is all perfectly, really, within the bounds when you consider the way he handled it, by observing, for example, that many researchers believe the third tramp is E. Howard Hunt, and when he said supposedly Oswald took this route and then, in this preposterous move, emptied his revolver of shell casings, which is completely ludicrous.
Yeah, let's get into J.D. Tippit a little bit, because that's one aspect of the assassination. I really haven't covered it too extensively on the show, but a lot of people say, well, if Oswald, if he didn't kill Kennedy, why did he kill Tippit? Well, he didn't kill Tippit. That's the thing you got to realize. Now, I guess the official story is that Tippit was in his police car and he pulled up alongside Oswald because he matched the description of who he was supposed to look out for Kennedy's killer. And Oswald approached the car. They exchanged words. Then Oswald walked away. Tippit got out of his car, was walking around the front of his car when Oswald shot him 3 times in the chest, then went up, shot him in the head, and ran. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of things wrong with that official story, first of which is the timing of it all. Now, would it have been possible for Oswald to even be there at the time Tippit was killed?
It looks most unlikely. I mean, he got back to his rooming house around, a little after 1, a little bit after 1. And the shooting was far enough away. I mean, it was 9/10 of a mile away. He got his revolver, got his jacket. It looks as though the Tippit shooting actually took place about 1:05 or 1:06, so there's no possible way he could have walked that distance in that amount of time. In fact, the whole route is far out of his way on the assumption he was going to the Texas Theater to meet his handler, which I think is exactly what was going on. So the whole business with Tippit was staged. They try to push back the time of the shooting to as late as 1:18, but it really is not defensible. There's quite a good discussion of the Tippit shooting, by the way, in Robert Groden's book, The Search for Lee Harvey Oswald. But the most incriminating part of it that discredits the story is the fact that the bullets that were removed from the body were 3 of one manufacturer and 1 of another, and the fact that the shell casings that were originally discovered by Officer Poe, which he initialed, were automatic, which are quite different than revolver shell casings. They're shorter and slightly fatter whereas the revolver casings are longer and slightly thinner. So, the fact that there were 3 of one make and 1 of another, 3 Western and 1 Remington initially, but later there were 2 of each, just shows how they were switching evidence, playing games, faking it all to try to incriminate Oswald, who doesn't appear to have shot Tippit at all. In fact, a woman by the name of Quilla Clemens, who was across the street, seems to me the most credible witness. She said 2 men shot Tippit, and that neither of them looked like Oswald. One of them was a heavy guy, and that would seem to comport with having, ammunition of 2 different manufacturers. So I'm inclined to believe that 2 different persons shot Oswald, shot Tippit. Neither of them was Lee Oswald, who was on his way to the Texas Theater, where he'd eventually, of course, be apprehended.
Yeah, because we get a lot of eyewitness reports that, it wasn't Oswald, it doesn't match his description. But, of course, the government always digs and digs and digs until they find one person who might think that, it could have been Oswald. And then tell them what they did with the lineup there. They rigged the lineup.
Well, the lineup was ridiculous. They had, only 4 persons in the lineup. One of them was Mexican, another was well-dressed. Oswald was the only one who looked remotely like the purported suspect. And the witnesses weren't even sure it was him. I mean, the whole thing was basically rigged. It was one of your typical, frame jobs going on there by the Dallas police. And by the way, I think that it was because the Dallas police were given the responsibility for framing Oswald that was done in such a shoddy fashion. For example, the weapon that they planted on him, this Mannlicher Carcano, this obscure World War II weapon, couldn't even have fired the bullets that killed the president because he was killed by high-velocity bullets, and the Mannlicher Carcano is not high-velocity. Plus, there were multiple witnesses, co-workers, who observed him down around the lunchroom at 10 minutes at 12 at 12, 12:15 as late as 12:25. Carolyn Arnold, who was the executive secretary to the vice president, observed him in the lunchroom. And then a motorcycle patrolman named Marion Baker confronted him there within 90 seconds after the assassination, held him in his revolver until Roy Truly who was his supervisor, came over and assured him the man belonged there, that he was an employee. They both wrote in their statements that he wasn't perspiring, he wasn't agitated, he was perfectly calm, except, Truly added, a little startled as anyone might be to suddenly find an officer holding a revolver on them. And Officer Baker added that he was drinking a Coke. So you get this preposterous scenario where the first thing the successful assassin of the most powerful man in the world does is race across the warehouse floor, stash his trusty liquor carcano, race down 4 flights of stairs into the lunchroom for what? To have a Coke? I mean, his hands would have been, so trembling from the adrenaline, he wouldn't have been able to get a nickel into the machine to get the bottle out. The whole scenario is absurd.
Yeah, Oswald didn't kill anybody. He didn't fire a shot. He didn't do anything that day. He was a patsy through and through. And again, how many political assassins do you see throughout history where they kill the president of a country or whatever, and then they come back and say, "Oh yeah, I'm a patsy"? No, they always take credit for it if they do it. That's when he was a
right.
patsy.
I know, it's ridiculous. And of course, he was embarrassed that he was going to be exposed now because he'd been working as an informant for the FBI. In fact, Wagner Carr, who was the Attorney General of Texas, launched his own investigation and immediately discovered he was working for the FBI. He had informant number 179, and he was being paid $200 a month right up to the time of the assassination, which I dare say explains why the federal government has been unable to get its hands on Oswald's W-2 forms. Can you imagine anything more absurd? The government claims it can't get his IRS records. How is that possible?
Yeah. But
the reason is, of course, it would have revealed that he was getting this $200 a month from the FBI.
Yeah, basically he was an FBI informant placed within the CIA, right? Is that what you believe? And that the CIA found out about him being a rat, and then they used him as a patsy.
He worked at different times for different agencies. When he was in the Marine Corps, he appears to have been recruited by the Office of Naval Intelligence. And then he was given Russian language training, it appears, in 1958 when he didn't qualify with a rifle. I mean, he didn't go up to the rifle range at all, which is very strange because I was a Marine Corps officer, you recall. I used to supervise recruit training at the same recruit depot and rifle range, San Diego and Edson Range at Camp Pendleton, where Oswald took his training. And he was trained to shoot, by the way, with an M1, which is a semi-automatic weapon, not a bolt-action Mannlicher Carcano. He was never trained to use a telescopic sight. He wasn't trained to fire at moving targets from a tall building. A commentator recently pointed out to me that since Oswald was firing right-handed, of course, and we see pictures of him from the rifle range, the location in the book depository was so awkward that firing that way, he'd be jammed up against a bunch of pipes against the wall there. It would have been a really awkward position. So that, every aspect of this is completely ridiculous. But in any case, he then was stationed at our most secure base at Sugi, Japan, from which the U-2 overflights of the Soviet Union were taking place. The Soviets knew about him but didn't know the altitude and couldn't shoot him down. He made what appears to have been a pseudo-defection in order, I believe, actually to provide information about the altitude so the Soviets could shoot it down. In fact, Khrushchev and Eisenhower were going to have a summit that was supposed to reduce international tensions. And Khrushchev accused Eisenhower of spying on the Soviet Union. Eisenhower denied it, but Khrushchev already had Gary Powers, who hadn't taken his cyanide pill, and parts of the plane in his hand, which was very embarrassing to the United States and led to the fiasco where the summit was canceled, and it increased international tensions instead of reducing them. So ask yourself who would have benefited from that. Clearly, the CIA and the military-industrial complex. And then when Lee returned to the United States with his Russian wife, who was the daughter of a KGB official, he wasn't interrogated. He wasn't treated as though he was had betrayed the country. He was given money to help to relocate. And he winds up down in New Orleans, where he's working with right-wingers like Guy Bannister and faking to be a member of this Fair Play for Cuba committee, where he antagonizes some anti-Castro groups because they thought he was with them, which he really was. But by handing out these pamphlets, he was developing the persona of being a pro-Castro communist sympathizer, which was going to be how they were going to get a 2 or 3 for out of Oswald doing it. Not only did they get rid of JFK, but they claimed he was a communist Castro sympathizer. So the American public is supposed to rise up and demand that we crush Cuba. So the Joint Chiefs not only get their Vietnam War, which, of course, Lyndon immediately expanded, but they get to invade Cuba and take out Castro. Lyndon was smart enough to know that wasn't going to play. Jack, in fact, had committed the United States to not invading Cuba and had agreements with the Soviet Union that would have been grossly violated had anything like that happened. But then you get Oswald. His arrangements are made when he comes to Dallas, where Marina is living, by a woman named Ruth Payne, who with her husband have CIA connections, and she arranges for him to get a job in the book depository just a few weeks before the assassination.
Yep.
I mean, when you put all this together, you realize he was just a pawn who was being manipulated by higher powers.
Yeah, just do a basic research into not just Oswald, but the people around him, who his friends were at the time, what their connections were, and you see the whole picture then, and it really comes together. Getting back to Tippett real quick, what do you think his role was in all this? Was he part of the conspiracy? Because I hear theories that he was supposed to pick up Oswald at his boarding house and maybe drive him somewhere.
Yeah. Well, apparently the police car stopped in front of the boarding house and honked a couple of times, which was clearly a signal for Lee to do something. And, Tippett may have been assigned to shoot him. I think there were at least 3 different occasions when they planned to get rid of him. One, of course, was in the lunchroom. I think that Officer Baker was really supposed to shoot him, and it was because Roy Truly was there that it didn't happen. Then, of course, he takes public transportation, an astounding, mode of escape. According to the official account, he takes a bus, back to his rooming house, but he gets bogged down in traffic, so he gets out to take a taxi. A little old lady wants a cab, so our fleet assassin offers it to the little old lady, and then of course, the rest goes on as we've already described. But Tippett may have been designated to shoot Oswald. It didn't happen, obviously. Then I think he was supposed to be taken out of the theater. There are several odd aspects of the theater, including that there apparently was someone else who looked just like Oswald, who actually was taken out the back while they took Lee out the front. And when bystanders asked who this was, one of the arresting detectives said it was Lee Oswald. And it's very odd how they would have even known, because he had 2 kinds of identification. He had Oswald, but also Alec Heidel identification on him. So, they only knew who he was because they knew who they were going to arrest before they made the arrest. I mean, it's all completely staged and phony.
Yeah, there's also an issue about how many wallets he had. They seemed to find a lot of wallets that day. One on him, and did they find one at his boarding house as well? And
well, I think that's right. Yeah, I actually got to know one of the participants in the assassination. Actually, we talked about that third tramp. I'm convinced it was Chauncey Holt, who actually was a counterfeiter, a forger, a painter, who was a contract agent for the CIA, and he told me how he was working at the Los Angeles Stamp and Stationery Store, which was like a 5-story building, and the bottom 3 floors were a legitimate business, and the top 2 was the CIA running its phony ID operation. And he told me the great thing about the operation was the lower 3 floors, where they had a legitimate business, was producing, manufacturing police and sheriff identification and badges. So if the CIA needed, to fake somebody as a sheriff, a deputy, or a police officer, they could give them real badges. But he told me how that was the location from which they prepared the fake Alec Heidel identification, which was used in New Orleans, when he, ordered his rifle allegedly to create the paper trail. And it's not obvious that he even was involved in bringing it in, but they wanted to have an obscure weapon that you couldn't just buy on any corner store in Dallas without producing any ID, which would have resulted in a far superior weapon. This was really a piece of junk. In fact, it was known as the humanitarian rifle in World War II for never actually hurting anyone on purpose. And he said he was instructed by his handler, Philip Twombly, to prepare 15 sets of forged Secret Service credentials for use in and around Dealey Plaza. He was very worried he might not get the color code for the pins, but he did get it in time. He was instructed to go to Dealey Plaza and go to the behind the grassy knoll, that parking area, which actually was used by the Dallas Police Department. He said he was told there'd be a red pickup truck there. He went, and the pickup truck was not there, so he wandered around Dealey Plaza, and he told me he saw more bad guys, more mercenaries and assassins than you'd find at a Soldiers of Fortune convention. He went back, and the pickup truck was there, so he left the 15 sets of forged Secret Service credentials there. He was with Charles Harrelson and a fellow who he knew as Richard Montoya, but who also appears to be Charles Davis and Charles Rogers. And they were directed toward a boxcar behind the parking area. And they were told to go to this one car, and it would look as though it were locked, but it wouldn't be, and they did. And when they got in there, they found it was loaded with weapons and ammunition and explosives. The train started to be pulled out. Now, the assassination had already taken place, but the fellow, I think it was Max Holland, who was running the railroad yard, noticed something odd and pulled him back, and they came along and they found him in this boxcar, and, of course, then walked him through Dealey Plaza. They were only very briefly, interrogated at the police department and let go without any booking whatsoever. He said they were most interested in the fact that he had this paper sack and he had a special radio in there, but also a handgun that had been custom designed. But they were let go. And, I think that, in fact, if the Oswald scenario hadn't played out, that those three guys were going to be the backup patsies, and being found in this railway car with these weapons, ammunition, and explosives was going to be the basis for making a case against them. So I think Chauncey actually just evaded being used as a patsy along with Charles Harrelson and Richard Montoya, who I believe was Charles Rogers.
Yeah, and you mentioned Harrelson. Our listeners, we always talk to TV on here. Of course, that's Woody Harrelson's dad, right, from Cheers.
That's right. In fact, I just watched Natural Born Killers the other night on TV. It's a completely brilliant film, and, of course, Woody's in it. And one time, Oliver Stone let out that, he wanted Woody for it because he knew this was in his blood, knowing about his dad, who was convicted of assassinating a federal judge with a high-powered rifle. Yeah. Maximum John Wood. Some drug dealer was going to be sentenced by Judge Wood, and, because he always gave the maximum sentence, he hired Harrelson to kill him, which he did with a high-powered rifle. Harrelson would, in prison, say that he had killed JFK, and when he was put on tape, he said, well, yeah, he said that, but he was out of his mind when he said it, and the fact that he said it showed that he was out of his mind, which is just one indication how smart these guys were. I mean, Charles Harrelson, very intelligent. Chauncey Hall, very intelligent. Others involved in this assassination were very intelligent. They were very, very competent people at doing what they did.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, we wanted to mention over at your blog, jamesfetzer.blogspot.com, you have a new post up about Clint Hill, and he was the Secret Service agent who jumped on the back of the limousine after Kennedy was shot. And what his testimony says about the Zapruder film. Would you like to touch on that a little bit?
I'm so pleased you asked me that, Michael. Yeah, because this is just out. Now, what's happened is there's a book that's edited by, authored by Jerry Blaine, but with contributions from other Secret Service agents. It's entitled The Kennedy Detail. And in the process of promoting this book, they've had book signings, and one of them, which I have linked here, Clint Hill talks extensively. It's a 45-minute event, and Clint Hill talks about 15 minutes about exactly what he did. He talks about rushing up to the limo, climbing up on the back of the limo, pushing Jackie back down in the seat, lying over her, looking down at JFK, who's now lying prone on the seat, and peering into this massive gaping wound at the back of his head, giving signals to others, thumbs down, that the situation was bad. As the limousine caught up to the pilot car at the triple underpass. Now, what's amazing is that what you see in the film is none of that. You see Clint get up on the rear footstand, and that's it. You don't see him climbing up. You don't see him pushing Jackie down. You don't see him lying over and looking down at Jack's wound, because none of that is shown in the extant film. And what appears to have happened is the following. As we know from many witnesses, William Greer, the driver, actually pulled the limousine to the left and to a halt to make sure Jack would be killed. He'd already been hit twice. He was hit in the back by a shot that was fired from the top of the county records building, apparently by a deputy sheriff by the name of Harry Weatherford. And he even called out, "I'm hit." Then he was shot in the throat by a bullet that passed through the windshield. And, of course, after that, he was unable to speak. I believe that shot was fired by Malcolm Mack Wallace, who was LBJ's personal hitman, who killed more than a dozen people, including one of Lyndon's own sisters. And then after the limousine stopped, Jack was hit in the back of the head. A shot appears to have been fired from the Dow Tex by an anti-Castro Cuban by the name of Tony Escudero. And then he was shot again after Jackie eased him up, was looking him right in the face, and he was hit in the right temple by a shot fired from the right front. Those two shots from the front were fired from the north and south ends of the triple underpass, halfway up between the roadway and the railway passage, there were above-ground sewer openings that were the shooting locations. There's a brilliant article by Doug Weldon, J.D., about the shot that passed through the windshield and hit Jack in the throat. And David Manick has done excellent work about the bullet that hit JFK in the right temple that set up, it was a frangible or exploding bullet that set up shockwaves that blew his brains out with such force that when Officer Hargis, the left rear, was hit by them, he thought he himself had been shot. I believe that shot was fired by a fellow named Jack Lawrence, who was an expert from the Air Force, and that other shots were fired, in particular from the book depository, but not from the east side where Oswald was alleged to have been, but rather from the west. My suspicion is that those were fired by Frank Sturgis and that John Connolly was the target. Connolly said he turned to his right, couldn't see what was going on, then turned back to his left, and that's when he felt this doubling up in his chest by a shot fired from the side. And then it appears as though at least one other shot was fired from the grassy knoll, and it appears to have been fired by a policeman who was also with the CIA by the name of Roscoe White. And interestingly, that shot missed and was picked up out of the grass opposite from the knoll. And I think it missed because Jackie was going to be hit. It was a very prime consideration that Jackie not be harmed in this assassination. But what we have, is multiple indications of fakery that emerge from what Clint Hill has to say. There's a wonderful sentence in the book itself, the Kennedy detail, about he was peering down into this gaping fist-sized wound in the back of his head. Well, the fact is that there were more than 40 witnesses who testified that Jack had this huge hole in the back of his head, but they were discounted by the government on the grounds that the x-rays didn't show it. David Mandick, however, has gone into the National Archives, studied the x-rays, and used a technique from physics called optical densitometry that enables you to measure the relative thickness of objects whose exposure to radiation created the images. And he discovered that when you define the area that's created by an object much too dense to be human bone, you see it emerges as a blowout to the back of the head. I discovered that in later frames of the film, because in the earlier frames they blacked out this hole in the back of the head, you can actually see in frame 374, you can actually see the blowout to the back of the head, which agrees with what, Clint Hill is describing, David Mandick's analysis and other diagrams we have of what the wound looked like, such as by Charles Crenshaw, who was the physician who was present there in Trauma Room 1 and then 2 days later attended Lee Oswald. He interestingly got a phone call from Lyndon Johnson telling him he wanted a deathbed confession, and Crenshaw explained to the president that Oswald was apparently recovering, and he didn't think there would be a deathbed confession. But when he got back to Trauma Room number 2, he said there was a very sinister-looking guy in a trench coat who was waiting for this confession. Oswald took a turn for the worse and died, so he had to explain there wouldn't be any deathbed confession. But, of course, that would have been just what the conspirators wanted the very most, a deathbed confession. So also this hole in the back of the head falsifies some photographs and drawings that were used by the House Select Committee on Assassination, the HSCA, when it reinvestigated 77, 78. So I've got all this laid out on this blog. So you really find all this wonderful stuff where Clint Hill's testimony in general about all of his actions is evidence that the film has been altered. When they removed the limo stop, there wasn't enough time left when they reconstructed the film for Clint Hill to do all those things, so they had to leave him hanging on the back of the footrest. So it's fascinating that his report about what he did, which has been consistent for 47 years, Michael, 47 years he's told the same story, now provides corroboration for our earlier findings about the film having been faked. But how can you do better than have it from a Secret Service agent, a guy who was the central player in the Zapruder film, who offers testimony that falsifies the film, falsifies the HSCA photos and diagrams, shows that the Mandick's reconstruction of the X-rays, which were altered again, was correct. And I'm actually showing you a frame 374 where you can see the wound for yourself. You'll find all that if you go to jamesfetzer.blogspot.com. So this, in my opinion, and David Mandick and John Costello, who's the other PhD who did this brilliant work on the film because he had this background in electromagnetism and all that, and where if you go to assassinationscience.com, but I you can find his tutorial on how the film was faked. It's really quite fascinating stuff. John created an enhanced version of the Zapruder film. He removed two kinds of distortion. One's called pincushion, the other aspect ratio distortion. And you'll see a film that is more vivid and clear than any you have ever seen before. And in fact, I have links to his enhanced version of the film right there in that article. So you can really learn a tremendous amount about the assassination from this one article, brand new.
Yeah, I think for people who aren't up on the all the conspiracy research, they hear, oh, the Zapruder film's faked. Oh, now what? You're crazy. So everything's faked. We can't believe everything. But the evidence is very compelling. And once again, if you look at the people involved, the chain of evidence, like the chain of custody of the evidence, it could have easily been faked. And for me, it always comes down to that big red blob on his head after he gets shot. It just looks phony and fake and painted on. And I'm sorry, like, where does that go?
Oh, that's very good, Michael. Yeah, that's very good. Actually, back in 1997, Noel Twyman consulted with an expert on special effects from Hollywood by the name of Roderick Ryan. And Roderick told him that the blob, that apparent gushing out of the brains to the right front, was painted in, as was the blood spray. Yeah. And now a new group of Hollywood experts has been looking at a version of the film they got from the National Archives, and they've concluded that the back of his head has been blacked out, that the blowout you should see in frames like 313 through 316 was painted over in black and done very crudely. So we actually have quite a lot of corroborating evidence about what happened here. And then, of course, there's a large number of witnesses. I don't know, it might be as many as 60 witnesses to the limo stop. Some talk about it slowing dramatically, others how it claimed to a complete stop, but of course that makes sense because from different perspectives, some would only see it slow dramatically, which it had to do in order to come to a complete stop. But I cite, 4 or 5 witnesses to the limo stop that are quite good witnesses there. So, just all that by itself, since you see no limo stop in the film, you know already the film is fake, but we know it from many different indications.
Yeah, it's very suspicious stuff going on in that film, to say the least. And also look into Abraham Zapruder's background, who he was, who he worked with, who his associates were, why he was standing at that exact spot to film it. There's a lot of suspicious stuff going on. I always say either you're a conspiracy theorist or you're a coincidence theorist, and I think I'd much rather be the conspiracy theorist because it's ridiculous that all these things come together.
That phrase is used, like a club, but in fact conspiracies occur all the time. They're as common as American as apple pie. All it requires is 2 persons or more joining together to commit an illegal act. So when a couple of guys knock off a 7-Eleven, they're committing a conspiracy, even if they're prosecuted under an armed robbery statute. Julius Caesar was assassinated by 30 senators, including his closest friend Brutus. Abraham Lincoln was assassinated by at least 8 assassins, 8 conspirators, 4 of whom were hung on the same gallows at the same time, including the first woman ever put to death by the government. And of course, anyone who thinks Bobby was taken out by a lone demented gunman, Sirhan, really should look into that case more. I did a piece on it recently entitled RFK, Outing the CIA at the Ambassador. And prior to that, I published a piece entitled JFK and RFK, the plots that killed them, the patsies that didn't. So that if you do, Google searches, or you're going to turn those up, or if you go to Assassination Science, I have most of my most recent articles about JFK and Bobby archived there.
Of course they don't want anyone to believe in conspiracies because that's how the people in power get power, through conspiring with others. So they don't want you to believe it.
Michael, I'll tell you, one of my first pieces when I started writing on 9/11 was entitled Thinking About Conspiracy Theories, 9/11 and JFK. And I began talking about the nature of conspiracies and the ambiguity of the phrase theory, because theory is used to imply, in its weak sense, a guess or a speculation or a rumor. But there's a stronger sense of theory that we find in the theory of gravity, the theory of relativity, and so forth, where we're talking about empirically testable explanatory principles. And with my background as a philosopher of science, all of my work with all of these experts has been dedicated to sorting out the authentic evidence from the inauthentic and taking conspiracy research from conspiracy theory in the weak sense to conspiracy theory in the strong sense, where we have testable claims that we've actually confirmed. I make the point that Michael Moore made so astutely when he was asked if he believed in conspiracy theories, and replied saying only those that are true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other aspect of all this. You got to worry about what stories are being planted to make you seem
Well, let me just
silly.
give you an illustration. You know, the 9/11 researcher attacker is a conspiracy theorist, but what they don't mention is that the government's official account involving 19 Islamic fundamentalists hijacking 4 commercial carriers, outfoxing the most sophisticated air defense system in the world under the control of a guy off in a cave in Afghanistan, is itself a conspiracy theory. So if you're going to study 9/11, which everyone would agree was the pivotal event of the 21st century, then you have to study a conspiracy, because if the official account is true, you have a conspiracy, and if the official account is not true, then you have another kind of conspiracy that is even deeper and darker. And if anyone wants to learn more about 9/11, go to the website for Scholars for 9/11 Truth at 911scholars.org. And in the upper left-hand corner, you'll find a document entitled Why Doubt 9/11, in which I enumerate 20 major findings by the experts I referred to before that refute the government's official account, I mean, up and down the line. I think after you read that document, you realize how much hokum the government has been shoveling about 9/11.
Yeah, I try to remind people all the time, but just take one evening of your life. Just take 4 hours in the evening. Just sit down and research 9/11, and you'll see that it's all just baloney. it's all a lie. The official story
is absolutely unbelievable. Here's a real simple way to get involved too, Michael, which is the Pentagon is a very interesting case, and I say if anyone wants to get kind of an introduction, put their toe into the water about 9/11. I have an article entitled What Didn't Happen at the Pentagon? What Didn't Happen at the Pentagon? It's on my blog site. There's another version, but it has some paragraphs that are more esoteric, like Inside Baseball, with which it begins. So if you go to What Didn't Happen at the Pentagon on jamesfetzer.blogspot.com, then you get a real simple introduction to a case that exposes the chicanery, the deceit and deception of the government here, just by looking at that one article, which will only take you 15 or 20 minutes to read.
Yeah, I wanted to get into that with you tonight. We're already out of time. But once again, the blog, jamesfetzer.blogspot.com, and you do a podcast at radiofetzer.blogspot.com is where it's archived. And you do that show 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, correct?
That's exactly right. And the archives is the great place to go. And you'll get all the shows there, and you can listen to them anytime you want, so you don't have to be locked into a program that might be broadcast when you're having dinner. You'll find the shows there that typically put up within a couple of days of featuring my guests, and there's some really dynamite ones going on right now.
Yeah, once again, radiofetzer.blogspot.com and jamesfetzer.blogspot.com. Well, James, I can't thank you enough for making the time for us. It flew by. Thank you very much.
Real pleasure, and I really appreciate your mentioning this latest article, Who's Telling the Truth, Clint Hiller, the Zapruder film, because if you just understand what's going on there, you're going to get a profound insight into the events of 22 November 1963 and how the government has been making an enormous number of moves to keep the American people from learning the truth.
Yeah, that's right. The struggle still goes on. We always got to keep trying, get the truth out there. All right, James. Well, thank you so much, sir, and I'll be in touch.
My pleasure, Michael. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me back.
No problem. James Fetzer, jamesfetzer.blogspot.com. Now, let me see if Larry's still with us. Larry, are you still there?
I am here, Mike Dowd.
That's impressive. I thought you would have gone off somewhere by now, but yeah.
No.
Yeah. Did you enjoy that, Larry?
Yeah, very good stuff. Very good stuff.
He knows his stuff, the James Fetzer,
He certainly does.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that.
See, I'm always worried about bringing on the conspiracy experts because I think, like he was saying, inside baseball, it's almost like too much technical stuff going back and forth that I don't know if our audience who isn't used to all the conspiracy stuff can understand what's going on, because we mention names that maybe you've never heard of before, and we kind of assume that you know it when really you don't. Were you able to follow basically what was going on, Larry?
Yeah, I think I was okay. I think I did all right, Mike Dow. Yep.
All right.
Yeah, it was good stuff, but, you probably scared some people out there, probably scared some folks.
But really, no more than Brandon's music choices, right?
What happened there?
Yeah, I should have got James Fetzer. We should have got his picks for the 2010 music, the best music I wonder.
I picture him to be a Black Eyed Peas fan.
No, I don't think so. No.
I got a feeling.
Let's hope not. Yeah, I saw over at damashek.com people were posting the 11 bands that they hate the most or something, right? We did that list, right? Didn't we do that?
Yeah.
No, did I do that list? I can't remember. Was that just you and Brandon, or?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I don't remember if it was you, me, or me and Brandon.
Yeah, because there's a lot of bands I don't like. But
yeah.
All
of them.
Yeah, I guess we're about out of show. We got to thank James Fetzer, once again, jamesfetzer.blogspot.com. And then we got to thank Cousin Brandon, cousinbrandon.wordpress.com. And at Judy Bloom. At Judy Bloom. Yeah, I'm sure that'll be
J-E-W.
And, Matt Diggs. We got to thank Matt Diggs for calling in. Yeah, he was sending me emails about how it was a conspiracy that the Red Wings lost to the Penguins in 2009 in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yeah.
He just can't let it go. He can't get over it.
Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. And sorry we didn't get to the Ed. But
the Ed called in?
No room. Yeah, he was on there, but, whatever.
Oh, that's why. Because he kept calling me on the home phone. And I'm like, doesn't he realize I'm doing the fake radio show? So I'll have to give him a call. But, yeah, the Ed show tomorrow at 10:30. We'll be doing some sort of nonsense. And what else, Larry? Isn't there something else we got to tell the people? Oh, next Wednesday night, 9 o'clock, maybe Jim Ivina might be back next week. We'll see. There's talk Jim Ivina might make an appearance. And Pat Piccarelli.
Oh, there you go.
Show favorite, Pat Piccarelli.
Everybody's favorite. Don't forget, over at damashek.com, leave your questions for Pat Piccarelli next week.
Yeah, let's get some questions for Pat. And Larry, you got to come up with something fun to talk with Pat about, because you're always, you want it to be fun and light-hearted.
Yeah, like pornography.
No, I'm not going to let you talk pornography with Pat Piccarelli.
Why not?
He's my mentor.
Bogus.
I respect Pat, and I don't want you doing that kind of nonsense.
Okay, well, this is between me and Pat. Got nothing to do with Mike Dell anymore. All right,
Larry.
All right, Mike Dell, that's it. Next Wednesday, Pat Piccarelli. Other than that, I got nothing. Until then, pass the gin, governor.
WKRP. What exactly did you have in mind, Mr. Carlson?
What do you suppose he's up to?
And I think I hear something now. Something just came out of the mouth. It's a skydiver. No parachutes yet. Oh, my God, they're turkeys! Turkeys are hitting the ground like sacks of wet cement.
Thanks for that on-the-spot report, lad.
I thought it would work. It's pretty strange after that. I really don't know how to describe it. As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Thank you very much.